Hello, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. Ansony Sieh hosting a special edition of the Hour of Politics. I am happy to be here. I hope you are. Do us that usual favor, share this broadcast with your contact. I got something to get to very quick. The political leader of the ANC, Mr. Elizana Benedict Cummings Jr., just had a press conference. There had been a lot of news and noise in the CPP, and there has been a lot of accusing fingers pointing at him, and many people are giving him a lot of names. Some call him the disruptor. And, some people are calling him the guy who is referring to him as the guy who is causing all the confusion. They are accusing him of using money to infiltrate the Unity Party and the Liberty Party, and he's doing all this so that he can be able to snatch the nomination of the opposition CPP. And more to that, people are saying he does not even stand a chance, and that he walking away from a meeting of all of the political party leaders of the CPP was something that did not show any political maturity on his part. So everybody, depending on where they stand, have a way of looking at the entire situation that is happening with Cummings being in the mix of it all. And, I thought today to look into it. Cummings on his part too has been alarming and flagging a lot of violations of the framework of the CPP. And this is something some people are trying to say, okay, he is the one that is only pointing out the violation. And so Cummings today having, being in the news and everybody giving their take on how they see what is obtaining, his role, the allegations, the accusations, and all manner of things that have been said in his favor and also against him, felt the need as the leader of the Alternative National Congress, the ANC, decided that there has to be a press conference for him to speak. And so today, Mr. Elizana Benedict Cummings did have a press conference, and what I'm here to do as your political guy is to look into that press conference. What was that all about? How did he do, first of all, in that press conference? And we will be digging into that press conference, the statements that he made, and we have some questions that we will be providing answers for. And we will be doing the necessary analysis and everything around the issue of the noise in the CPP. I will do my best to bring to you some understanding as I see it, and I hope that you will stay with us. So let me not waste your time. If you are wondering, we are digging into the Cummings Today press conference that was held at the headquarters of the ANC. To do that, of course, we'll be doing analysis, commentary, and we have to raise some questions and see how best we can provide some necessary answers. And you too can be part of the conversation by providing the answers you think will help to answer these questions that we do have. And so let's get to it. And let us get to it. But before we do, let us do this.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
I am Ansony Sieh on the Hour of Politics. I see a dear friend, Ben Sanvi, is watching. Ben, thanks so much for joining here. Ben, the other day I saw your post, my man. You said you're leaning. Where you guys coming up with a leaning team, my man? So you need to tell me where you're leaning. Anyway, let me get to business here. This is the Hour of Politics. It's usually for an hour. So Cummings had a press conference, folks. And my first question that I'm rolling in is, how was the press statement? And how did Cummings do? That is what I want to know. So how was the press conference? And how did Mr. Cummings do in that particular press conference? You know, in this business of politics, one of the most effective ways politicians communicate and reach out and do everything they have to do is by communicating through press conferences and speeches. And so those of us who have interest in this thing called politics, we always have interest in what the person has to say, the delivery, the body language, and all of that. We do have interest in that. So as I was listening, I was reading the comments, trying to get some people feedback. They said, oh, Cummings was nervous. He was not that calm, cool. He was not to himself. I mean, that was some people observation on the body language. But what I saw with my little political eye was that, Cummings was eager to provide some clarity, to provide some explanation. So there was some sort of pressure. Not that he was nervous, but he felt that he needed to meet the challenge, meet the movement, because many things have been said. Why he walked out, some people say was political immaturity on his part. And he needed to provide some clarity why he even walked out. And so that kind of pressure, the eagerness, the desire to provide leadership, to provide the answers, to answer the questions that people and the concerns that people are raising, he wanted to do it in a timely manner. And that is all I saw. Other than that, I think he was on point on the statement. So let's look into the statement and see some key lines, that we can look at in the statement that Mr. Cummings did deliver. So first of all, before I get to those lines, let me say this to you. What were some major lines expressed and what expectation those lines created? So as we listen to Cummings, as I listened to Cummings, as I was listening to the major lines, the major statements or lines in his statement, there was the expectation that was created even before he could speak. The fact that it was this news that, Cummings will be having a press conference and giving all the noise that was brewing into the CPP. And we also know for a fact that there are some members of the ANC who really want to see Cummings walk out of the collaboration. And some people who even support him and not member of the party, they feel that he should not be in a political union. Obvious reason, United Party was in power for 12 years. United Party record is sting with corruption and all those kind of things. Benina Ure does not have any impeccable record. He too, out of association with his own involvement and all of that with the MPFL and all. So these two parties, United Party and LLP, they don't have a good reputation, so to speak, and I can say that, without any hesitation. So Cummings, who projected himself, or many people see as the clean guy who has no political sting on him so far, should not have gone into this particular union with individuals who politically, have some sting on them. And so for him to have gone there, and now with this thing happening, noise every other time in the CPP, accusations of violations of the very framework that bind the institutions together. And the expectation was that he was coming to make a clear-cut statement that, hey, enough is enough, I am out. That was the expectation that was created. And so as people were watching, I see people coming, don't waste our time those who are in Liberia, their data has been harmonized and say, hey, Mr. Cummings, what is your point? Just say it. We want to leave. My data is running out. I'm being harmonized by the government. And that was the expectation. That Cummings was about to make a statement to walk out of the CPP, go solo, and be able to chart his course on his own, along with his political institution, the ANC. That expectation was there, but Cummings did not give that expectation to us. So I was talking about what are some major lines that somehow suggested the expectation that I just talked about, and the fact that those lines, though, made that suggestion, coupled with the expectation that were created by itself in the first place, did not happen. The Cummings let some people down here, or he actually showed maturity. That yes, there's noise in the room. Yes, the environment might be a little hostile for me and my institution, but I'm going to stick there because I'm going to stay there because in union, maybe we are stronger together. So let's go to some of the lines. One line that I captured there, real change versus another chance. Think about that. So why was that line mentioned? Now, that was one of the lines that had also given some people the expectation that, okay, he is the real change and he is in a measure where some individuals or political institutions are that are searching for another chance. And this time, it was a blow, it was a shot, it was a jab on the Unity Party. They had a chance for 12 years, and they still want to be the one to lead the CPP. And so when he threw that jab, that he is the guy who is up for real change, and it's like others are there for another chance, and the fact that he is not there for another chance, he was trying to communicate, since this thing is about another group seeking another chance and not the change that the Liberian people do need, I am out. That was that expectation, that particular line, had created as I was listening, and some people, I'm sure, might have gotten that same feeling. Another line, he said, it is not about how long you stay in politics, it's about how well you do it. Now, another good line there that Mr. Cummings mentioned. So there has been this accusation, this jab that people in the Unity Party, the ALP, and the All Liberian Party, which is the party of Mr. Benny Nayiri, hey, Cummings is the new guy on the block. He just came in. So he again was throwing another jab, throwing a political punch that, hey, this thing that I cannot do a better job, or I should not contest or compete, or should not even hold the ticket without wasting time here because I am just coming. It's a bluff. That's what the point Cummings was making, that it is not how long you stay in there. It is how well you do it. Again, suggesting that, look, I am playing well here. You have been in the game, but how well have you played in this particular politics? So again, that line had also suggested that, hey, maybe Cummings is saying these guys have been in this politics, they are not playing well, and I cannot be part of a group that is not willing to play well, or maybe that has not played well at all. So again, that line has suggested that Cummings was trying to walk out of that particular union. Now, another line, we must be the change today. We must be the change today if we want to be the change tomorrow. That was another line that Cummings did use in that particular statement, saying that, look, we CPP projecting ourselves as the alternative, that we represent change. And that change that we are preaching, we are offering the Liberian people, it should not be a change of the future only. It has to be now. Again, a statement suggesting, two possibilities, that either the other members in that political union are not living, walking the change that they need to be, but instead doing otherwise, but at the same time expecting that they can be the change that the Liberian people want. In other words, Cummings was saying, hey, If we are preaching change, we must live that change. We must walk that change, and we must not only talk that change. People should see the change in us. It should be exemplary. It should be in our actions. It should be in our deeds. And the emphasis from what I see was on their own framework. The framework that binds the four political parties together in this political union. That framework, Mr. Cummings has been flagging that this framework is being violated by some members of this political union, the CPP. And he was making the point that this is not a change. We are telling Joshua, you are violating the Constitution of Liberia. Of course, Joshua is a violator in chief of the Liberian Constitution. And I've said that many times. I can name you about 50 violations that the president has committed. So yes, the CPP has been on point. The CPP has been right that President Weah has been violating the Constitution of Liberia, not only the Constitution, all the laws of our country. And so Cummings was making the point, if we want to be the change that we want to be tomorrow, should we be elected to the executive mansion as a political union, we should start living that change now. So when he made that point, people were like, okay, this might be suggesting that he is out of here because these other political institutions and their leaders are now living the change that they want to give the Liberian people tomorrow. And that has become a contradiction, thereby making the narrative a little more difficult for them. And that may even undermine their chances as a political union comes 2023. So that had suggested that Mr. Cummings was trying to say, I'm out of here because we should be the change that we want to be tomorrow and that we want to offer the Liberian people, because if they see the change in us, then they can count on us that we will be able to deliver the change. But what I see right here is now that there's been violation all over the place. So let's bring another line here. Line number 4. Change must begins with us, and it is not enough to criticize the government. Another point that he made in the statement, that the change must begin with us. Are we the change when we are violating our own framework? So, in other words, Mr. Cummings is pointing out that, hey, I am for the change we ought to be. I am the change. We must be the change. Suggesting that, because when he's making the statement to his colleagues, it means that they are not the change. That the change that they want to offer the Liberian people, that change is not beginning with them. And as for him, that change begins with him. And he said it. The change must begin with you. The change must begins with me. The change must begins with us. Why was he saying that? He's saying that because he does not see that change beginning with other members of the CPP and other leaders within the CPP. If they were living the change, acting the change, showing an example of the change, if the change had begun with them, Cummings will have no reason whatsoever to make that statement. That also has suggested or created an indication that Cummings was about to walk out of the union. But at the end of it, or after this expectation was created, what happened? Mr. Cummings said, we are not leaving the CPP. He went on to say, let me be emphatic. Let me repeat. We are not leaving the CPP. Did Mr. Cummings violate people's expectation? Maybe I shouldn't use the word violate, but it makes sense though. Mr. Cummings did not meet others' expectation. The expectation that he built up in the speech, the expectation that was even created just with the announcement that he was having a press conference after he was being, in the news, that he walked out, he showed immaturity and his side defending him. He did the right thing. He cannot be in the midst of people who are bent on violating the framework of the CPP. Folks, they coming not meet that expectation that was created. Somebody may say, yes, he did not mean that expectation. So if he did not mean that expectation that he was about to walk out, what did he meet? Maybe that was not expected. Now, what was not expected in this speech that Mr. Cummings met was the fact to preserve the union. After all this flagging of violations, after the cries from your side that you've been mistreated, you've been disrespected, in the union, and that the pleas from other members of some members of the ANC that let's walk out, let's do it now. Maybe we can build our own collaboration so that we will not have all this noise going here and there. For Cummings to have decided to stay, he met another milestone to preserve the union. There are others who are disappointed. Now it has changed people's focus. Does this project Cummings as a nationalistic leader? Does this now show Cummings as a leader? Because those who were excited that he had walked out of the meeting, they have assumed that that was enough for him to walk out of the union, even though they feel that they really need him because he brings a lot of capital, so to speak. If you think he doesn't have the political capital, I think he does have the financial capital. But I would say he does have some political capital too. He won around 112,000 votes in the previous election. That was his first attempt. I guarantee you there is a high possibility that he will get more than what he had gotten in the first round. So he does have some political capital. More besides, we see that Cummings party he's part of, the ANC, is the fastest growing political party that is bringing experienced individuals from other political parties, youths of life, coming the building an institution. So of course he brings political capital, and it should not be dismissed. And the election that comes 2023 will be very expensive. It will be very, very expensive. Because when you have a celebrity president in power, in the case of George Weah, and he has fanatics, he has sycophants, he has people who really believe in him because he's the best thing in their opinion that's ever happened to Liberia, they will go at every length to defend him, and they will do whatever it costs. So such an election will be very expensive. And so the folks in the CPP do need each other. Now, in the United States, just to sidetrack a little bit, Donald Trump became a celebrity president. That election was expensive. Billions were spent in that election. So in the case of Liberia, to kick out a popular president, I'm not sure he's that popular right now, but he is still popular with his base. And so to speak, we can say he's popular with his people. Those who believe in him, those who see him as their guy, he is still popular with them. Even though many of them are disappointed, but they don't see any other alternative in their circle. So this election will be expensive. Now, let's look at the election that happened in Monrovia with Thomas Fowler and Darius DeLong. That election was expensive. The CDC spent millions. Thomas Fowler was seen in the street dishing out money, cash, brand new notes to individuals in the communities. Thomas Fowler became like a political ATM, and people were just plucking numbers and drawing cash. So this election will be expensive, and the fact remains Mr. Benign Ure does not have a solid financial standing to be able to bankroll or finance a campaign of the CPP. He cannot do it alone, let alone Mr. Joe Boakai. Joseph Boakai does not have money. Mr. Boakai is broke. I repeat, maybe you didn't hear me. Mr. Boakai is broke. In the last election, Mr. Boakai campaign could not raise significant funding. That contributed to the massive defeat that he suffered, and all he had to win was his own county, which was very humiliating, disappointing, and the most disgraceful defeat ever in the history of our country. For a man who served as vice president for 12 solid years, who had the state machinery, the county leadership behind him, he was paying them, he was giving them their paychecks, talking about superintendent, assistant superintendent, commissioners, and chiefs, and all that. These are people that were on the payroll of the Unity Party. The Unity Party went to that election. The Unity Party won one county. And what county it was? The county from which the vice president came. So when we are talking about even numbers, and talking about even the cash, the money that's needed to battle this particular, political battle that is coming on in 2023, the ANC is needed. Cummings is needed. Boakai cannot do it alone with Ure. He cannot do it alone with a fragmented, disjointed, destroyed, tarnished, and damaged Liberty Party. He can. And in fact, with a Boakai, the narrative will be stuck against the CPP. So some way, somehow, they need each other to service each other to be able to lessen the tough narrative that they may have. Because others in the mix might show that, okay, they have some good people there. And so maybe they might be given a chance. But I fear anything short of that union being preserved, it might be catastrophic for them. I have other thoughts, but I will not express that. Let me progress. So Mr. Cummings now has been Mr. Clean, as his followers call him. And in fact, the Unity Party folks calls Mr. Boakai Mr. Clean too. I don't believe that. But let me progress. I'll save that for another day. So, has Mr. Cummings been the clean man? He has been flagging whole violation. So, has Mr. Cummings been consistent with his flagging of these violations? And to the Cummings folk, I got news for you. Has Mr. Cummings been consistent with flagging the violation of the framework? Has Mr. Cummings been consistent? Now, some people will say, yes, he has been consistent, but how consistently has Mr. Cummings been consistent with pointing out, taking leadership on the violations of the framework? Now, let me say this, first of all, before I get to it. Cummings was the head of the CPP at some point. And during his time, when there was this primary in Nimba County, I believe there were some violations that took place. What did Mr. Cummings do at the time? Did Mr. Cummings, as a leader, as the head of the CPP at that time, did he demand that the framework that was violated be upheld? Did he? Or did Mr. Cummings let it to slide? I would say Mr. Cummings had allowed it to slide. And why did he do that? Mr. Cummings did that in the interest of the union, to preserve the union. So when there is a violation, and you projecting yourself as the man who has been consistent, the man of the, I don't know, I should say, law and order, the man who is for the rule of law, the man who is trying to protect the sanctity of the framework that it should not be violated. What did Mr. Cummings do at that time when he was head of the CPP? Did Mr. Cummings demand at the time that we cannot swallow this violation that was done in Nima County? Or did he allow it to slide in the interest of the CPP? Yes, that is what Mr. Cummings did. Mr. Cummings was not allowed. Mr. Cummings did not protest. Mr. Cummings even have a press conference in which he even condemned the conduct of that particular primary and that it was in violation. But yet, that which he has criticized and condemned, he swallowed it. In essence, he was in agreement of that violation, because if you vehemently oppose something that it is wrong, you must stand your ground. Did he stand his ground? All he did was to lecture us that there was a violation. As they heard, the framework was being violated. All you had to do was tell us that it was violated, and then you stood on the side of that violation, and you were suggesting that just by talking about it was enough as a defense for the violation of that particular, as standing against the violation of the framework at the time. No, Mr. Cummings. When you are standing against something that is wrong, you demand that the right thing be done, and you go against the violation. But all you did was to just point it out and you swallow it. Swallowing it at that time meant that you were in agreement. You acquiescence the violation of the very framework at the time. And the next question is it because it was not in your interest at the time? Those who think I am the ANC guy, do I know that somebody wasting their time behind political parties? I don't waste my time. What I do is I enjoy this stuff. So I come to do an analysis, to ask questions and provide the answers that I know. That was what Mr. Cummings did. And I would say here that was unfortunate. He should have stood his ground that there is a violation here. And so I am not going to allow this to happen. But he allowed it to slide in the interest of, quote unquote, preserving the union. During that time, Mr. Cummings' party was not happy. Members of his party were not happy. But that is history now. And so the question I asked earlier, is Mr. Cummings consistently consistent with flagging violations of the framework? And based on an analysis that I just provided, there you have it as your answer. Let us make progress. And so another thing we want to bring to your attention, though Mr. Cummings may not have been 100% consistent, he deserves some credit that he has been pointing out some violations. And only if others have been pointing out the violations, maybe the CPP will be in a better place. Now, I agree Cummings is right, all of the violations that he has pointed out. So let's look at some of the violations for which it is reasonable to believe that Cummings has been doing a better job in pointing out these violations. Have the United Party and the All Liberian Party paid their dues as required by the framework? And does that constitute a violation of the framework? What is your answer? So, according to the framework, constituent members of the union had to pay their dues. The United Party, under the leadership of Vice President Joseph Yimambwaka, to prove my point earlier that he is broke, has not been able to pay a dues. Also, to prove my point that the all Liberian party of Benin Ure is also broke, or Benin Ure is broke, they at the ALP have not been able to pay their dues. This is a gross violation of the very framework. And these are the individuals who have not paid their dues are calling Mr. Cummings to a meeting that has no agenda whatsoever. And they want him to say, if you don't pay your dues, you have forfeited your good standing as a member of the institution. And so to those who said Mr. Cummings had exhibited immaturity for walking out of the meeting of the political leaders have not paid their dues, rendering them unqualified to sit into a meeting of political leaders when they are in default. They can't pay their dues. Unity Party is, we are told, the greatest political party, the biggest political party, infested with the best of the best. And these people that were in government less than 4 years ago can't even pay their dues. Did we not see the wanton looting in our country? And these guys can't even pay their dues? And you want somebody to go and sit with guys who don't pay their dues? If that is not a violation that warrants any individual to stage a protest, then what other violation are you talking about? So yes. So another point I need to make here, when now Senator Darius Dillon walked out of a meeting that was called by President Weah some time back, people celebrated Darius Dillon. The likes of Costa celebrated Darius Dillon for walking out of that meeting. And they said it was leadership on his part to have walked out of the meeting. But today, Cummings walk out of a meeting of individuals who are in arrears, who are in violation of the framework by not paying their dues. They are condemning him and calling him all manners of names for protesting that, Lord, you need to pay your dues. And you don't have an agenda. And you must be in good standing before I can sit with you in a meeting. That was in protest. Oh, when the protest becomes something bad now, my people. Protest is bad now. Folks in the opposition, today protest is bad. The United Party folks supported the protest of June 7. I was in that protest. When has protest become something evil, my people? He walked out of the meeting in protest. These guys are not paying their dues. The June 7 protest is being considered as one of the greatest things that ever happened in the history of our country, because individuals came together to register their displeasure, their disappointment, and a letdown in a government that was elected by the people. And also for the violations of the laws of our country. Some of the reasons why that protest was staged. Some people want to be credited for registering and participating in that protest. But the same people want to condemn an individual for protesting by not attending a meeting. Don't we encourage even citizens in Liberia, the civil servant who can't take it, to not go to work? Let us stay-at-home action. When has that become something evil? Folks, don't get this thing twisted. That's why I don't want to be a member of any political party. Because people are situational. They are conditional. When it comes to the truth, they are selective. And that kills my spirit. That is hypocrisy. And that is why I will stay with the media to hold these guys accountable and to keep them honest. So Unity Party can't even pay their dues. ALP can't pay their dues, and Benina Euro is saying he gossiping or Cummings does not. The man who does not have money, his party, they pay their dues. You say you get all the money now, why you can't pay your dues? Unity Party claims it's the biggest political party that has everything that Liberia needs, and with Waka, we all good. But the last time we checked, someone took a loan. Why you can't take a loan and go pay the dues? For your political institution to be in good standing in the union should be a priority. That would be a good reason to go and take a loan. Take a loan since you want to be president, say so your party can be in good standing. Now, another violation is the fact that the CPP framework calls for a convention. A convention is what is required by the framework as the process or the option to producing a candidate for a constituent member of the CPP. It is not an endorsement. It is not coronation. It is not anything other than a convention as stipulated in the framework of the CPP. So if that is the case, how dare you go and carry on a convention, an endorsement, and according to Yombly Kanka Lawrence, in that meeting where they had a press conference, after all, the meeting Cummings supposed to be there, Cummings did not show, right? It was not decided that they were going to have a press conference after that meeting. But when Cummings walked out, they decided to have a press conference as though they had an agenda. And in that press conference, Yombly Kanga Lawrence said, Unity Party had already made a decision as to who becomes their standard bearer, and that person is Joseph Yimabwaka, and that they asked Mr. Cummings is asking for time, and they will give him time. Yombly Kanga Lawrence, you are the leader, you are the chair of the CPP. The CPP framework says for an individual to become a candidate of a constituent member, that person must be produced from a convention. And yet, in the absence of a convention, you dare to mention that Bwaka is the candidate of the Unity Party, a gross violation again of the framework. So you see those who think I'm a Cummings guy. I am not. I'm not sure I'm ever going to be. Because this whole thing about political party does not excite me. What excites me is, how do we move this country forward with the best of us who have the best ideas? Do you have a better idea for Liberia? Get on a ballot and you will be my guy. And if you disappoint me, I will come after you with the truth. And that is where Joya is in trouble with me. I'm not sure that guy is in trouble. That guy just enjoying himself. Became Ansony in America, just causing the boy in Grand Crew hearing himself. The boy is just enjoying himself. Hey, there's a saying in Liberia, 99 days for row, 1 day for the master. So keep telling us, I'm just causing noise. That noise will make sense one day. Back to the topic. So, Yombly, has the Unity Party had a convention? No. And how will you now say that the Unity Party has a candidate? We are talking about CPP here. The CPP framework supersedes the individual constitution of the constituent members of the CPP. Yombly, That thing there, that beatings there, that small thing you don't even know. You came together. You drafted a framework which is your constitution. It's like the constitution of Liberia supersedes any other constitution in the country. So you as a union, Liberia is a union of 15 political subdivisions. So that constitution of the Republic of Liberia reigns supreme in the land. In the case of the CPP, you may have your individual constitutions, but the framework that constitutes the constitution of the CPP remains supreme when it comes to deciding who becomes a candidate for each member of the constituent member of the political parties. Normally, that big thing said for you to understand. But let me not waste your time here further. Let me read something for you. There is a statement further confirming that the United Party is in error for them to have purported that they do have a candidate in absence of a convention. And this statement came from their own chairman. Apparently, this is why the chairman is being wanted out by the youth. Mr. Cummings is again being accused. Let's read the comment from Amin Mondad, chairman of Unity Party. And he was responding to a gentleman called Stephen Johnson Page II and called sorry if I butcher your name. Any one of the political leaders of the four political parties, of the four parties, can vie for the CPP leadership, provided that individual has the mandate by his or her party through a convention. This is why the CPP framework states that each party must have its convention before the CPPs. Do you understand that English? Simple English. So that endorsement thing, and let me complete this thought first. So that endorsement thing that was done by Unity Party, it is not the required process to selecting a candidate for any member of the CPP. The required process, as required by the constitution of the CPP, is through a convention. That is why Amin Mondad is saying, and he is the chairman. What does that suppose? It means the endorsement of Ambassador Vice President Joseph Yimambuaka that was done to tell the Unity Party people he is the one we want. That is how I understand it based on the CPP framework. Because in any political institution, when primary is coming about, people can endorse people here and there. People, while the primary process is kicking, or even as it's going on, individuals, institutions, members in our particular political institutions, who carry a lot of clout, politically speaking, they can endorse. And sometimes a political party too can endorse. We've seen that in the U.S., the Democratic Party, that I'm a proud member of, the Democratic Party goes by endorsing some candidates, even while the primary process is going on. And so for the record, let me state, what the Unity Party did by endorsing and coronating Ambassador Vice President Joseph Yimambuaka is not in violation of the framework, because that process did not constitute a nominating process or a selection process of their candidate for the CPP. People should not get it twisted. They were only trying to say, this is the man we want in our party. He is the one we want to take to the convention. That is my understanding. If anything is short of that, then there are a bunch of confused people. So those who making no, oh, anything endorsing the man is a violation. No, it's not a violation. Ami Moda is clear that the way you produce your candidate for the CPP primary is through a convention of your party. So I want to abolish United Party. Go to your convention and through your convention produce your candidate. Since you have endorsed Joseph Imambwaka as your candidate, abide by the framework. Be able to live by the spirit and dictates of the framework by going to the convention and producing him. Endorsing him is not enough. It is only for your own satisfaction, and it is not a required process by the CPP framework. Let's make progress. I hope I made myself clear. But here is another thing. Has the guidelines for the nominating process been published? No, the guidelines has not been published. Why has the guidelines not been published at this time? Why? The guidelines must be published. It has not been published. So anything outside of a pronounced and published, agreed upon guidelines of the CPP as a tool for selecting their individual candidates for the CPP primary, in the absence of that guideline being used, no party has a candidate. And I hope these people are paying attention. You must publish the guidelines. Individual members of the CPP, talking about the parties, must follow that guideline in selecting their individual candidates and then the CPP primary. So when will the guidelines come up? And so when people are talking about violation, when people are talking about you must be the change, you must be the example, this is why it is. The guidelines should be out now. The timetable should be out now. Have you heard about any timetable? The only thing we ever heard was that the CPP somewhere around December, they will be able to make a decision. I mean, what time are you waiting for? The guidelines should be out there so that coming to December to start the process. The guidelines should be out even like 2 to 3, 4 to 5 months before the time. So the CPP, through its chair, Nyomli Kanga Lawrence, must release that timetable. That guidelines must be released so that the individual members can go and follow that. So that thing, Benny 9 year doing, you ready, you go stand beside Joseph Imambwaka. Hey, don't get me wrong, it is a right to suppose who he wants. The man knows he doesn't have anything going for him politically. So he's trying to ride on Joseph Imambwaka so that he can have a slot in a possible CPP government so that he can again do what he does best, to milk the honey from the government's coffer. That is his profession. That is what he did best during the time he was in the Charles Taylor government, when he was licking it and milking it at Maritime. That's what he wants to do, because he knows he can't get elected for anything. And so for those who are with Mr. Joseph Imambwaka, I know you have endorsed your candidate. There's nothing wrong with that. That is your right to do so, but know that that does not, in any way say that you have abided by the framework. Please go to convention and give us your candidate. Liberty Party, if you're not going to convention, make it plain and simple. Let it be official. Let it be communicated. They're rumbling. Normally say I will not be, and that constitute your decision. It is laughable. A political institution must meet, they must decide, and must be communicated and must be done on time. And Benny Nayure, your party, that's your personal property, that you, your daughter, and few others who are just behind you, because when the CPP is lucky enough to win, it will be easier for them to get a piece of the pie, because that party is just, few individuals. So just go, and just as you always do, like when you rush to Nima that time and fire everybody and selected people that you could pull by the nose, just go and do it for formality's sake. Didn't you people do it when you selected your dollar Talia to be the candidate of the CPP? Didn't you people do it at the level of the Liberty Party and the entire CPP when you selected Darius DeLong without a competitive process, a primary process, and you offer him and you won? Just do it. Stop wasting our time. Be the change you preach to be. But you don't walk like one. And that is unfortunate. When you want to beat a guy who is this bad politically speaking, and you yourself, you are this bad politically, you can't even respect your own framework. So we want to see the guidelines being published. Folks, let me conclude. Mr. Cummings walking out of the meeting that was called by the 4 political leaders, he did it in protest. It was his right to do so. You can't force somebody to go to a meeting. In Liberia, under our constitution, it is the right of any individual and any group of people to protest. And they should be respected when they protest, when they register their opposition, when they register their displeasure, their dissatisfaction on anything. It doesn't mean that they are immature. When Muhammad Gandhi led a protest, a non-violent protest in India that gave the people of India independence, that was not immaturity on his part. That was leadership. When Martin Luther King, along with his colleagues, staged a non-violence action here in America, fighting against discrimination, one protest after the other, one march after the other, that was not immaturity on his part. Today, he remains an iconic figure in the history books. That was not immaturity. And some of you who are bashing people, Cummings, for protesting, you celebrate folks who have organized the so-called June 7 protest. And some people have become popular today because of that protest, and yet these very people were condemned, demean, denigrate, and say all manner of things about an individual for protesting against individuals who have not paid their bills. The fact that Benina Ure Party can't pay its bill as required by the CPP framework, that is a violation. The fact that Unity Party, under the leadership of Joseph Yimambwaka, is indebted to the CPP, a violation of the framework, those two, that in itself is enough for anybody to say, no, I'm not coming in a meeting with you. Our law says we should pay our dues. It's not that you owe just 1 month or 2 months, you owe multiple months. So why should I sit in a meeting with you? So pay your dues. Start violating the constitution of the CPP or the framework of the CPP. Then at least I can come to meeting. What is wrong with that? He didn't insult anybody. He didn't throw stones. He just walked out politely. Wouldn't it be a good thing if the people in government who are not taking pay say, no, we're not going to work today and the government can pay us? Wouldn't that be a good thing? How will that in any way show that they are unpatriotic citizens? They work, they must be paid. They must have a responsible government that pays them for the work they do. And so we should have responsible political leaders who pay their dues and don't violate the framework. And because they are doing that, the individual walk away. And you say you got a problem with that. What kind of business is this? So don't get it twisted. We all can protest. Those who are married, if they're not happy with their wife, they refuse to eat. Some of them stay stay away to their friend place for a day or two in protest. That is the best thing to do instead of beating on their wife. Nurses, professionals, the protest, the whole placards. When has protest become a bad thing in our democracy? When? That is the most responsible, mature, and patriotic thing to do. The last time I saw Benny Nayure at the June 7th protest, why you didn't condemn him? Some people celebrated him. I saw him with a placard. I won't walk around. Hey, Benny Nayure. People celebrated him. DeLonge were at that protest. People celebrated him. DeLonge walked away from a meeting that was called by President Weah. People celebrated him. Ambassador Joseph Yemambwaka endorsed the June 7th protest. People celebrated him. They celebrated these individuals because the government in power was violating the laws. These very people violating laws, somebody walk away, then you say all this thing. What kind of human being are you? You know, that's what happens when you put yourself in a political party and you're forced to defend, you're forced to justify. You become hypocritical. You don't stand for Liberia. And so to those of you who are leaning, I don't know where you were, for which you're leaning now. So just tell where you have been. Have you been with your party and you go into another party? Or you leaving yourself and going to another man? Is that a leaning thing you're talking about, my good friend Ben Sanvi? Where are you leaning? You leaning to Bwaka or you leaning to Cummings? You leaving Liberty Party now, bro? Come on, man. Where you guys going with your leaning thing? I have been with Liberia and the masses and where I remain. I will never lean anywhere. What is the leaning? You have a country you say, oh, you're leaning to America? Come on. The hour of politics with me, Ansony Sieh. I hope I was able to dig into the press statement that was delivered today by the leader of the ANC, Mr. Alexander Belanda Cummings. Again, I brought you a special edition of the Hour of Politics. And we will be leaving you. I hope I was able to do my best. And to those who I have disappointed, I will tell you I'll do better next time. To those who think I did better, find something to criticize me. Sometimes I can be yelling. Tell me about that. That's how you show me love. This thing, oh, thank you. I don't love praises. I hate praises. I hate praises. I love criticism. I do love criticism. All right, let me read a few comments. It's a lot of comments. I'm not taking calls today, folks. I'm not taking calls today. Let me read a few comments quickly. Vamadi Dunzo, ALP is not political party, but family union. River says pro, there's nothing wrong with walking away from a corrupt group. Let's hear from Joseph Ernest Lord Jr. This is savage but true. You know, that's what I do. I tell the truth. Smith Dawia, Hobart, Dimbusha. Francis Doe has reasoning problem. Be careful listening to people like that. Okay. Let me leave that one. John Bryan, you have naive and very uninformed. You are naive and very uninformed. Thank you for dealing with me. In Nimba, Mr. Cummings bribed delegate to vote for him, and when Honorable Europe found out, he dismissed them and selected new delegates. The guy is dealing with me. I like it when these people deal with me like that. Broke people want to be leaders. They want to come stay. Mary Pade, we have elephant meat. Elephant meat, let him pay. I don't know what that means. Siata Thompson, you showing punches here? I don't know. Siata, say something. Let me go to Comfort Abu, talking to somebody. Let me hear from Ambassador R.C. Nimland Jr. I'll wait till you're ready to read comments. All right. Let's hear from Franklin Roosevelt. They can be kicked out of the CPP per the framework agreement if they don't pay their fair share of the cost of operation. And that is reasonable to me. If you can't pay, get out. In America where I live, if you don't pay your mortgage, if you don't pay your rent, they evict you. And these people are not paying their dues. Let them be evicted from the CPP. It's just that simple. You don't pay, then you want to be there. You not pay for the people property that you're sleeping in, then you want to be there. They will kick you out. Am I making sense here? I agree with you. You know, it is your payment of the dues that sustain the institution that gives you the privilege and right to be there. You're not paying, get out. That means you don't want to be there. Mankel, they want us to give state power to a political party that can't even pay their dues. That's it. They can't pay their dues. Marik Bade, I hope you tell the people to pay their dues. River Sesper again, at least you are not criticizing we are project today. I'm 100% with you. But man, I'll come after you, man. We are. And the men make a lot of promises. Philip Bala, Alexander Cummings also supported the protest, so don't Cinco Unity Party. I agree with you. I agree with you, but you know, they are calling Cummings' name, condemning him, you know, for protest, right? The same protest they supported. So that's why I didn't mention Cummings. But you are right. Cummings, yes, had endorsed the protest. The June 7 protest. June 7 protest that was sold by Crooked Costa. Oh, that person is making an allegation here that Mr. Costa sold the whole thing. World leader walk away from the United Nations General Assembly every time they dislike the speeches of others. That's what I'm talking about. You know, folks, this thing here, when we say the truth, then you people saying something else. Let me hear from my good brother, Aliu V. Vamba, Aliu Kamara. Remember that your audience are very smart people. They are listening to you very well. They can determine which side you are even on if you deny. Hey, my man, say I Cummings man. Aliu, I'm not a Cummings man. You see, I mean, in this presentation, I dare with Cummings. Sieh, they are calling ASN troublemaker. Get in good trouble, necessary trouble. Representative John Lewis. That is Sieh there quoting John Lewis that Cummings is causing good trouble so that the people can abide by the laws. Aliu, my man, I don't know. That man, my man, I'm not a CPP guy. I'm not a CPP guy. I'm not a Cummings guy. Ansony, some leaders in the CPP are novices, the person, right, to the framework agreement. So they don't even understand how it works. I would believe so, because if Yomli is behaving like that, then she doesn't understand it. And maybe she hasn't read it. Cummings will remain in the CPP, as he said, but will continue to expose those corrupt politicians. That person, right. Let's hear from Sieh again. You are exposing the truth, Mr. Ansony Sieh. You know, that is what we do. We want a better country. The country will not be better without the people. We have the responsibility. I'm not a Bible guy, but the Bible says, surely the Lord God Almighty will do nothing except through his servants. We are the servant of God. If Liberia is to get better, it will be us. It will not be the trees. It will not be the land. The land does not even talk. So we must be held accountable to do the right thing. People don't hold and say accountable. Others hold others accountable. And that is why when you come here, don't listen to what I'm saying when they criticize me so I can get better. I want to be good at this to serve Liberia well. So if you come here just to pray, sing me, then I think I'll block you. I just kill it. Is it wise for Cummings to stay in the CPP to expose lies and corruption? He said, oh, it is wise for Cummings to stay in the CPP to expose lies and corruption. And then he asked a question. That is Mr. Daudat Logan right there. Let me hear from Samion or Galimon. I guess you will be doing Liberia and Liberian justice if you can come up with a name of the best for Liberia instead of saying that you are neutral. With all the best of analysis, standing on the sideline has not and will never have but cause more trouble. So that person is saying my analysis, the person is convinced that I'm doing a good job with my analysis, but staying on the side, saying you get good eyes, tell where you're standing, and then we'll follow you. No. In democracy, people make decisions for themselves. That is democracy. That is why the whole black voting thing is talking about, I consider a complete nonsense. And let me show you evidence why I think it's nonsense. Look, focus on Liberia. I made noise, but my noise tried to be reason. I would make sensible noise. I don't make that noise like other people make. Let me quote something for you. The Constitution of the Republic of Liberia provides that every eligible person shall have the right to vote. B, vote shall be by secret ballot. You understand that? That the vote shall be by secret ballot. That is why the whole block voting thing is complete nonsense. Let individuals decide for themselves what they want for their country. Well, folks, we have to leave it there. A lot of comments. We can't get to all of them. I have to go on the farm. And those of you who think that Cummings is my guy, he's supporting me because he has too much money, that is not true. That is a lie. I have to go to work to pay my bills. I don't want to be like the Unity Party that is not paying a bill. And I don't want to be like the ALP that is not paying a bill to the CPP and still want to control things. I want to be able to pay my bills so that they can't kick me and my family out of this house that I'm paying mortgage for. So I will go to work. Let me hear from Sam Wallow. Sam Wallow follows us religiously. Can Ansony be more subjective? It would be so much easier if he just admit that he has a horse in the race. Hey, these guys are smart. They are saying something that I don't see, that I don't even feel. Let's hear from Philip Ballard. ANC were funded by disgruntled and disenchanted sedition, including Henry Pedro Costa. Alexander Cummings is presently leading a branch of the ruling party, and that's why Alexander Cummings could not win Maryland County in 2017. All right, that was 2017. Let's see what happens. Joseph Cotto has something to say to me. Mr. Sieh, the issue there is that the current chairman of the CPP has earlier stated that only the OP has put forth a candidate for the process of consensus. According to the Secretary General, Mo Ali, the UP is not required to have a convention because Joseph Yimam Baka was elected as standard bearer to serve for 6 years. On the other hand, the CPP framework document requires all political parties wanting to contest the presidency to conduct a convention. Mo Ali is wrong. I'm out of time. Mo Ali is wrong. Mo Ali is wrong. First, they are in the CPP. The Constitution of Unity Party is not supreme or does not supersede the Constitution or the framework of the CPP. So Mo Ali is wrong. In other words, because they are in a union, it is what the CPP framework says that decides who becomes a candidate for each institution. So since the CPP framework says that there must be a convention, whether Unity Party just have convention 6 years ago or within 6 years, it does not count. Because in the CPP, they're not going by their individual constitution, they are going by the framework. So Mo Ali is wrong. Second of all, the convention that Mo Ali talked about, that convention expires before 2023 election. So if they are going by that, that means that Mr. Bwaka will even be disqualified. Because by the time we get to the election, Mr. Bwaka will have been illegally selected to be the Unity Party candidate, thereby disqualify him to even contest if we go in by that. So Mo Ali is dead wrong. These guys, they don't even read things. They don't understand their own laws. That is what kills me about these people. Come on. Anyway, Ansony Sieh has to go and push his cartoon. Folks, this is how we will come to the end of this broadcast here. I focus on Liberia. I'm Ansony Sieh. I brought you an analytical and commentary edition of the Hour of Politics. Here I focus on Liberia. We do not end our broadcast without giving you the song that says we are all Liberians. And let me share this with you before I leave you quickly. Today at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, my brother and friend, Dennis Baku Kenjuja, will be having a show. And this is the advertisement Focus on Liberia presents is the CPP imploding Cummings walkout ALP of youth protest. Mr. Cummings will have with him today as panelists Samuel P. Jackson, who is supporting President Weah, Josh Kalentule, the co-host of our program here on Point. He is a member of the Liberty Party, and Mr. Alice Chuchu Jones, who is a member and co-founder of the movement to make Liberia better. You do not want to miss it. These guys are smart. They will tear the whole conversation into pieces for you to understand. Now, having said that, this is how we will come to the end of the broadcast. Until I see you again, my love to you all. Keep criticizing me so I can get better, to do a better job for you and for our country, Liberia. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Enjoy the sun. We are all Liberians.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.